take a lie detector test. Rowley and Edmund Dillon should take a lie detector test on this single issue. And ask them the question, were they behind a plot to do that? When we raise the issue, brothers and sisters, it is a fact that persons lost their contracts and persons were removed. They had it on the internet all day today. Mr. Maraj and others, brothers and sisters. So are you saying all of these people were incompetent? They had no expertise? Mr. Denny will speak to this matter in due course, but there's something more dangerous, more deadly here. This SSA is a runaway horse in this country under the PNM. They are law unto themselves. Do you know, and I put it to you, that Gary Griffith, the current Commissioner of Police, when he demitted office, when we left government in 2015, do you know in 2016, 17, and that period, Mr. Griffith was a critic of this government. He wrote articles, postings. He appeared on TV, made radio interviews because he was a former national security minister and is an expert in the sector. He made critical remarks on this government. Tonight I put it to you that our information is the SSA, Strategic Services Agency, had put surveillance and were tailing and were investigating and inquiring into Gary Griffith, the current Commissioner of Police. They were doing that. You have to ask somebody now, what you going to tell me now? I lie now? They were doing that because they saw themselves as a unit of the PNM. And I tell my friend Gary Griffith, there are agencies, units, and people in the police service. Mr. Griffith will not know all. He cannot monitor everybody and every agency and every unit. If the PNM infiltrates the police, it is in particular units, particular divisions, particular heads. It is not the whole police service. But they were even trailing Gary Griffith. And we have the information. That is the type of country they are presiding over. And the dastardly act, brothers and sisters, that you may not know, and I'll put it to you now. Keith Rowley appeared on the news. He read from secret and confidential documents. You all remember that? Personal files of Mr. Denny. He got his hands in that. Tonight I just want to tell you that under the Strategic Services Agency Act, Chapter 1506, brothers and sisters, let me tell the country and the world, there is a strict secrecy provision. And I want to read it for you, because I think we should read it for you. Brothers and sisters, you want to hear it? Yeah. You want to hear that one? Let me read it for you. It is section 8, a simple section to read. And it states, brothers and sisters, look at here, man, we have it. Subject to subsection 2, no employee of the agency shall disclose any information obtained or accessible in the course of the performance of duties and functions under this act unless so authorized by the director. And I must continue to tell you a nice little point I like too. A3, any person who contravenes subsection 1, which I just read, is guilty of an offense and is liable on conviction on indictment to a fine of $100,000 and to imprisonment for 10 years. I call upon Gary Griffith tonight to interview Keith Rowley tomorrow and find out where he got that confidential information from. It ought not to be in his presence. The law states that you cannot divulge that information unless authorized by the director. And the law goes on. It's not just that, brothers and sisters. I want to tell you, they give here disclosure, the reasons you can disclose, permissible in law. If there's an investigation or prosecution in the serious criminal, so you have a big criminal case going on and you really need to get information, you could get it. Come. For the investigation of serious crime, brothers and sisters, pursuant to any offense under the Dangerous Drug Act, you hear what I'm saying? You can only give that information pursuant to investigations of criminal activity. How did Rowley get those personal files? which had nothing to do with the matter of who fired and who not fired. It had to do with the man's personal job and reviews and so on, for which there's no personal appraisal. Understand what has happened here? Rowley must explain tomorrow how within 24 hours did you write an employee, did you write the director, what did you ask for, when did you get it, why did you get it? It is in breach of the act. So Keith Rowley, how did you get it? You know the song, everything is why, how, when. Brothers and sisters, Keith Rowley, I stand tonight to tell you that he may well have broken the law by having in his possession that document and reading it in the way he did. He breached the law. And that is a matter I call upon Gary Griffith to look into. That's it, right? Look into tomorrow. Rowley ought not to have those documents in his possession. It is a breach of the law. The law don't provide for that. Who did he write? We want to see the copy of the letter. And why did you need that information? It was for a political purpose. It was not in pursuit of the Dangerous Drug Act or serious criminal activity investigation. Brothers and sisters, those are the serious matters that confront us. Brothers and sisters, those are the matters that confront us in the last 48 hours. So, like you, I am eager to hear from the main speaker tonight. I want to pledge our support from the people of Oropouche East, brothers and sisters, from the people of Pinal Debe to the people of Caroni East. We bring you greetings and salutations, and we give greetings to our very distinguished doctor and MP, Dr. Tim Gopi Singh, who has been in the leadership in the parliament, providing this sort of attacks on Keith Rowley. I end by telling you, this government has targeted people like me. They have targeted people like Dr. Gopi Singh. And the reason they target us is because we target them. Thank you and good night.
That's why I portray in this big broad smile today. Oh God, oh, look, I feel it.
My brothers and sisters, the democracy of Trinidad and Tobago is under threat and attack on the eve of our 57th anniversary of being an independent nation, and the corruption, and we see an emerging dictatorship under Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley. We have scenes of an emerging mongoose gang and the Tonton Makut. That is how the PNM has had their political history since 1962. And this is what we must be prepared to defend under Kamla Persad Bissessa and the United National Congress, the democracy of Trinidad and Tobago, my brothers and sisters. And Rowley has questions to answer in terms, he can release the sexual harassment report on Darrell Smith. He cannot tell you the report on how the Cabo Star was procured, the Galleon's Passage, the Jade Valette, all the boats in Tobago, and how they bind boats for the National Ministry of National Security. But they want to release to Trinidad and Tobago the personal employment file of the Deputy Director of the SSA. And this is the dark politics that is happening under Keith Rowley. My brothers and sisters, in the last 26 years, he has served at the level of being chairman of respective boards and enterprises in Trinidad and Tobago. He has served as a senator. He has served as an opposition member of parliament. He has distinguished himself in the field of academia at the University of the West Indies and prestigious universities such as the University of London, Johns Hopkins University, and the University of Toronto. A man who has ensured that the education sector was transformed under Kamla Persad Bissessa, who revolutionized ICT in education who delivered 106 schools throughout the length and breadth of Trinidad and Tobago within time and within budget. And his accomplishments in the field of education ensured that Trinidad and Tobago was recognized by the Secretary General of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon, in terms of our developed nation status. Under Kamla Persad-Bissessar, I bring to you the former Minister of Education and your parliamentary representative for Caroni East, Dr. the Honorable Tim Danraj Gopi Singh.
Come down on the ground to meet me. But wait now, if not we come to
Thank you very much, my dear friend, Mr. Rudy Indar Singh. Rudy was my campaign manager for the Caroni East constituency in 2007. And he has grown in stature and in confidence and in ability and capacity as a minister in government under Kamla Persad-Bissessar and served in 2 different ministries, the last one in the Ministry of Finance as a minister. Thank you very much for that introduction, Rudy. Tonight I am humbled in the presence of my distinguished and brilliant and powerful colleagues on this platform. Dr. Rudal Munilal, Dr. Suraj Rambachan, Ramona Ramdial, my former younger member who was a minister with us, Mr. Kevin Ramnarayan, and of course, I know Kirk Megu, Dr. Megu, for a number of years. So tonight, on behalf of the constituency of Caroni East and the constituents, I extend my sincere thanks and congratulations to the platform and thank all of you for coming out this evening in your large numbers to listen to the voices of our members of parliament from the pavement of Caroni East constituency. You remember it was Rowley when he couldn't get his way and Dr. Munilal opened up some issues and Rowley could not have taken it anymore. In his response, he said, meet him on the pavement. But Dr. Munilal has been on the pavement for the last few weeks across the country, waiting for Rowley, but Rowley not there. He can't find him. So we invite him to come and meet us on the pavement while we have a discourse and conversation with you, our people. Yesterday, I was amazed to see Prime Minister Rowley standing up at the diplomatic center to fight back an individual whom he accuses of preaching race and now want to accuse our political leader and the distinguished and venerable Prime Minister, Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar, of wanting to introduce that. That is not Mrs. Bissessar's style. Mrs. Bissessar is an international stateswoman. She has served this country with diligence and with kindness and support for our people of Trinidad and Tobago. She doesn't need race to win an election. Her motto, if you look at the 2015 manifesto, 2010, was people-centered development, people first. She said, serve the people, serve the people, serve the people. And while I was Minister of Education and Mrs. Bissessar came to open schools to meet children, the children gravitated to Mrs. Bissessar. The teachers came. She was loved by male, by female, by children, by the elderly throughout the country. Who want to go close to Keith Rowley? Every day he portrays arrogance. I can tell you I know Keith for over 40 years, closely. Over 40 years since we were together at the University of the West Indies in Jamaica at Irving Hall. We used to line up to 1 o'clock in the morning. But I'm unhappy about the way that he's taking this country into the degradation. I say that he seems to have a political missile of destruction. He destroys everything. He's unable to lead. He has the weakest government that you could ever have in this country. It is the most incompetent government that you have ever had since Eric Williams. When you look at the front bench of PNM, who can you say that has the capacity and the capability and the competence to run this country? There is none. None. And look at the Senate. They're all floundering. But look at the team here tonight. This is the team that worked with Mrs. Bissessa to bring the best that you could ever find in the 5 years in Trinidad and Tobago. Because she had a vision. So when he gets up to make that statement regarding race, what did he do when the Tobagonian Sandy say the Calcutta ship coming? Did he denounce it? Did he denounce Hines when Hines said that we are alligators from a murky lagoon? Did he denounce it? What did he say when Hines said, I will chop off the dreadlocks of that Rasta child when he kissed Kamala on her hands? That is what he is tolerating. And he has no moral authority to come and tell the people of Trinidad and Tobago anything regarding ethnicity and race. He must understand that this country has over 25% of a mixed population. The Douglas alone about 10%, another 15% mixed. So he cannot appeal to the ethnic configuration. He has to keep that in himself. And he now knows that he is failing, he has failed, and he's holding on to anything. When he makes statements to preach race, to preach hate against us, he's destroying himself. He's destroying his party. And it is no question, when Manning spoke about him, that was the Rowley that he was speaking about. We see it every day. The arrogance. And he doesn't care about Trinidad and Tobago. He came into office and he said, I want to have the smallest ministers of government. He said, I want to ensure that we save money. But his ministers are tripping across the world. He is tripping across the world on a holiday, going to his golf courses, grooming the golf courses that he's spent millions of dollars. I understand that when he went to Barbados recently, he went with one of his partners. I know his partner. He went to play golf in Barbados at the Sandys Lane, where a golf game costs more than $1,000 US. Who paid for all of that? So what has he done? He appointed a team of ministers, and they have no use whatsoever to him. So he started a fire. And if I look at Parliament in front of me and I see, he fired Dillon from National Security. He fired Marlene twice. He fired Oliveri from Energy. He fired Antoine from Public Utilities. He fired this boy in San Fernando East, Rudy, Mitchell from Housing. He fired Shampa Kojo from Tourism. He fired this boy, Rumping Smith from there. So he fired all of them. So where is he? Where is he? Now ask yourself, how many days has Rowley been in Trinidad and Tobago? Every day he's tripping around the world. His minister's moving as well. Somebody went for a training program for a month in something in security. Taxpayers paid his salary here. Taxpayers paid for his training abroad. His job is to represent his people. And he was not here. And I'm speaking about Hines. I'm speaking about Hines. He was on some one-month training program. So, Rowley is speaking about saving money. So he's all over the place, gallivanting. My brothers and sisters, I came here tonight prepared to speak about education. But I thought it is important. I just want to bring one more thing that I remembered. When Stuart Young accuses us in the UNC, in the opposition, he accuses all of us about being in league with criminals. We are not in league with any criminal in this country. He must ask his own family who is in league with the criminals. When that cocaine bust took place in Westmoreland, who was in league? So he has no moral authority to come and talk that foolishness on parliament, on television. What about the boy who lost his cell phone and he went to Laventille to find it? Who got it? That was kept quiet and they find it quickly. What happened? You must ask questions about that. You must ask questions about the blue vehicle, the BMW that was found in Westmoreland area at the site of when the cocaine bust took place. Where is the driver of that blue vehicle? Yes. And they want to talk about UNC. They spent $35 million when they came into office on doing audits with Pricewaterhouse and Ernst & Young. 4 years they say, we're locking up all you, all you're going to jail. And who lock up now? And when you point one finger across, 3 fingers coming right back at you. 3 fingers coming right back at you. So ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, 2 of my colleagues mentioned some aspects of education. And it was our Prime Minister, Mrs. Bissessar, had a vision to move education forward. And she implemented year after year a program where the most amount of funding went to education, 16% of the funding and close to 6% of GDP. Better than most of the developed countries around the world. And we went to a state where we were amongst world leaders in education. South Korea, Singapore, Japan, Finland. We were in sync with them. We were the first country in the world to achieve universal early childhood education from Mrs. Bissessar's leadership. Hillary Clinton complimented us. The Global Education Forum complimented us. Ban Ki-moon told prime ministers of the Caribbean in a Caribbean country that Trinidad and Tobago had achieved early childhood education. We participated in private sector in education in the Qatar Foundation. Former President Bill Clinton and Ron Zakaria, you would see him on television on CNN. We participated in discussions on education. That is the level we had reached. 102 ministers of education complimented Trinidad on the work we were doing. We were in sync with Uruguay, Argentina. Russia was now bringing in the laptops for children with 3,000 schools. President Obama was now asking the international telecommunication countries to bring in, help him to bring in IT into schools. We participated in the Beijing Declaration in Technical Education. And you could go back and look at the Beijing Declaration on Technical Education, where we took part in the plenary session and the concluding session. We had the best academic performance in 2014, and we bettered it in 2015 in SCA, CSEC, and CAPE. We outstripped the Millennium Development Goals. We provided 95,000 laptops to students, supervisors, principals, teachers, and over 300,000 citizens of Trinidad and Tobago benefited from ICT knowledge because the laptops were shared by their siblings. St. Lucia government asked Trinidad and Tobago for some support because we were doing a great job. Thousands of teachers were trained in ICT. 125 secondary schools had computer labs. Some of these schools had over 3 labs with about 50 computers. Over 300 primary schools had computer labs. We brought on 150 ICT technicians to service these computer labs. We had audiovisual rooms, whiteboards for interactive learning. We had Wi-Fi connectivity up to about 50, at an average about 50 megabytes per second. Because of our work in ICT, OS made Trinidad and Tobago the center for virtual education in ICT in Latin America and the Caribbean. We had 21st century smart classrooms across the country in about 25 different schools. 3,000 students went up to do ICT at CSEC. We made sure that we brought in ICT at Cape level. And we had 36,000 children aged 3 and 4 in early childhood education centers across Trinidad and Tobago. Because we partnered with the private sector, we partnered with Serval. You know that when a child is born, 20% of that brain development has taken place already. By child 3 years, 50%. And by 6 years, 90% of that child's brain development has taken place. We trained over 6,000 teachers in ADR, ICT, mediation, language arts, mathematics. And all teachers in the primary school have now a bachelor's of education degree. There is no primary school without having a trained teacher. We employed over 2,000 new teachers. Some went on to do the masters and the PhDs. That was the level we had reached. Kamla Prasad Bisesa provided 2 million textbooks to children in 5 years. Every child in every class, in every subject, in every school got one textbook for their work, and she even provided workbooks for these children. Today, parents are begging. They're putting out their hands and coming to you, but you have to help. And what a shame, Lovell saying, well, in his days, you had to pay, you had to buy your textbook. What a shame. So from 2015, no child got a textbook. They scrapped the entire program. We gave 2,000 scholarships to our students who did very well. They now brought it down. We built 106 new schools. When I presented that in Parliament, Garcia said, where you build that? In the sky. I ain't seen it. I gave him the list of the schools. I gave him a second time. I put it on Facebook. And Mrs. Bisesa at one of these Monday night forums showed every school, every one of these 106 schools that were constructed. So the talk done. All follow. But what is worse, we had 62 other schools under construction at varying stages. 95% completed, 90%. Dr. Munilal porting his children in Penal, in the Ramai Trace school is about 90 to 95% completed, but the children have to go to school in a temple. They can't get the proper meals because they can't eat meat and so on in a temple. They're suffering, the children. And cows grazing on the grass by the schools. They're vandalizing the schools. Yeah. So it's a shame and a disgrace that this government spitefully, willfully, and hypocritically has abandoned the construction of any one of these 62 schools, leaving them to decay, spiting the children, spiting the parents. But God will take care of them. You cannot do the children that. You cannot. And Rowley and his team will have to pay for that. They're not giving the children books. They're not giving them the school. The transportation for the children in rural areas, they want to cut away. Yeah. So, my brothers and sisters, we had parenting and education workshop. We employed 700 student support services, educational psychologists, behavioral psychologists, clinical psychologists. They're gonna cut it down to 300, so that's why you're having all this type of violence in schools. We had employed 150 health and safety officers. We filled the vacant positions for deans. When we came into government, there were only 15 homework centers across the country. We built 402 homework centers. We ensured that some of these schools, in 402 schools, we had homework centers. You know, they abandoned it. Abandoned it. And every year they have over $350 million in an infrastructure development fund to use. But they're so incompetent, they cannot use it to do anything as far as school program is concerned. They came in and they say EFCL had corruption, and they had a mill room. The room that was being used for 5,000 contracts that were given to 1,100 small contractors across the country to repair schools. Every day, 5 schools will break down. So you had to put together the documents. 3 months into their existence, big corruption at EFCL. And now we had to go and meet them to find out what the corruption is. The chairman came before the Joint Select Committee and he said there is corruption, and the chairman had to resign. They should be ashamed of themselves with the hypocrisy. So my brothers and sisters, with the economy at its worst, we're down to junk bond status. And when Rowley came in, they say, Imbert, the failed engineer, who everything he built falling down. The stadium in Grenada fall down. Some places in Diego Martin where he built some townhouses fall down. He cannot do anything. That is the man they have as your Minister of Finance. This is why the country is doing very badly. So we have the economy falling down. We have education, we have health. There has been no infrastructure development, and crime is at its worst. They have destroyed the lives of over 100,000 people with just this Petrotrin issue. Willful, spiteful, vindictive decision that they have been taken against the people. So my brothers and sisters, it has dawned upon us at the end of this evening. All of us have a lot more to say, but time does not allow it. Did they give any laptops to the children? Not one. They cried down the laptops. Rowley said, well, what are you giving children laptop for? The children don't see. You remember that? He called the children monsters. He gave no textbooks to the children. He reduced the scholarship. He failed to pay suppliers, school bus drivers. The school feeding program became almost at an end because people were not being paid. There's increased school violence. The worst academic performance in the SEA exams was last year. And in the first year, when we had brought down the amount of students, children getting less than 30%, from nearly 3,000 to less than 100, getting less than 30%. In 1 year, it went back up to the nearly 3,000. That is the performance of Garcia and Lovell. How can you put a woodwork teacher to be your Minister of Education? How can you put a man who talks history all the time? They don't seem to have a clue. So in any part of government, nobody has a clue. They destroyed the GATE program. You remember before the election, they say Kamala going to mash up the GATE program. Well, Minister Karim, under the leadership of Prime Minister Bissessa, made sure that we expanded the GATE program to tech-voc education. And so more students were able to do both undergraduate, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and some went to PhDs. Today, where it is. They fire hundreds of people from UTT. You know why? Because Ken Julian take $300 million from UTT and take it to Tamana Park, Tamana Intech Park. Not a man speak, not a man say a word. That is Ken Julian. So when he speak, Rowley tremble. The whole government tremble when Ken Julian speak. That is the man. I have to praise him in a way to bring out the UTT, but he has disassembled UTT. It is no longer a functional aspect of our education system. And they want to talk about corruption. They say when they came in, they met corruption and corruption all the time, UNC corruption. They have to answer these questions. The fake oil for 100 million, the Petrotrin issue, that's why they closed it down. They don't want to have any evidence there. They put this, Michael Kwamena, I know him from a young boy, because his father was my boss at Port of Spain Hospital, David Ebenezer Joshua Kwamena. But Michael Kwamena doesn't have a clue about Petrotrin, but he holds the 3 boards. Why Rowley have him there? Why Rowley have the husband of his campaign manager there? That is what he's doing. What he wants to make sure that this is so tight, it's sealed, that nothing must get out about this 100 million peak oil. The Cabo Star mobilization, 13 million. Ocean Flower mobilization fee, 20 million. Sporting facility in Diego Martin, 200 million. Cove Power Plant in Tobago, 130 million. Repairs to the TNT Spirit, 60 million. Ernst & Young and PwC, 30 million in audits. Europe Interchange, 200 million. Manzanilla Highway, 400 million. Who owns land? Which minister of government owns land close to both the Manzanilla Highway and the Europe Interchange? Who stand to benefit most from both of them? One minister, and they want to come and talk. The Maruga Road project, 178 million. Who got the jobs? What was the method of tendering? It's sole select tendering all the time. They choose their partner. They say, apply for this, and they give it to them. The same contractor who built a school in Tobago, a primary school, for $85 million a primary school. The most a primary school in Trinidad and Tobago costs between 30 and 35. Some cost 12, 14, 16, 18, 22, 24. We build almost 30-something primary schools. But the one in Tobago is $85 million. We asked Rowley to explain how is it that that contract went from 50 million to 90 million, came down to 80 million. Who is the person in Tobago who got that contract? And who is that person now getting the contract to do 120 million in Skinner Park renovation? Same man, and you talk about corruption. They eat and breathe corruption. They smell corruption. And I always said that they invented corruption, P&M. They masterminded corruption, and they perfected corruption. That's why the people all over the world hiding. And Rowley want to make the excuse that he was not a member of cabinet when all these things happened with the guy, what's his name, who left Trinidad and, Griffith. Calderhart. He said he wasn't a member of cabinet, he was on the backbench. Why the hell you didn't resign if you don't want, but he wanted to stay in there so he can lick up Manning. When we filed a motion of no confidence in Manning, when Kamala filed that in 2010, we had about 4 areas of corruption. But Manning had 6 people against him. And inside there was some of the people who now with Rowley, hand in hand. They were going to overthrow him. They were going to vote against him. And that is what Rowley went on to do, to make sure that Manning lost his seat. And that's why Manning had to call the general election in 2010. So my brothers and sisters, that is the man you're dealing with. My friend. Yeah. He asked in Parliament, what happened to me since I became UNC? I turned beast. Well, he turned beast from long before. And I am not treacherous. I am not treacherous. You see me, you know me, you feel me. You're around with me. I'm simple. I'm loving and kind. To all my patients, to all my people, to all my colleagues. I feel the love for them. I feel the love for our people. So don't do this. Don't destroy this country. Want to lock up everybody under false pretenses. My brothers and sisters, stay strong. Stay focused. Continue to support our political leader, Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa. Be strong with her, and she's going to bring victory back to the United National Congress whenever an election is called. Long live Kamla. Long live the UNC, and long live our people of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tim Danraj Gopi Singh, your Member of Parliament for Karen East. My brothers and sisters, you have heard from the pavement in Karen East tonight. The UNC bandwagon is on the move to reclaim the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And I urge you to join us in your thousands at the Presal High School this coming Monday, 6 p.m. sharp, as Kamla Prasad Bisesa and the United National Congress is on the move to spread the gospel throughout the length and breadth of Trinidad and Tobago. Long live the United National Congress. I thank you.
Your vote will decide that who you're voting will be on a doubt. When you're voting.
So there you have it, folks. UNC live stream from the constituency of Caroni East. Very powerful panel of speakers there. So UNC live stream shall be going live from constituency of Naparima with Councillor Chris on Friday. Join us at 6:30 for another UNC live stream production. For those of you who would have missed this afternoon's production, you can go back to our Facebook pages and look at the reviews. It's something that you need to do because all the speakers were very powerful and very revealing. So go back to the UNC pages and you could always get a review of this afternoon's production. So see you later on Friday.